Good morning, YouTube. Today we're going to change the brake fluid in my Ferrari 458.
So are you recording all of the nefarious activities?
If you're new to the channel, my name is Dan. This is my garage, and this channel is all about the supercar ownership experience, buying and selling them, maintaining them, DIY, work on them, and today we are changing out the brake fluid in my Ferrari 458 because, well, it's bad. It's gross, yeah. So Ferrari actually recommends that you change out the brake fluid on these cars about once a year. But if you're tracking your car or driving it very aggressively, probably a good idea to do it sooner than that. In fact, some of the tracks actually require that you change out the fluid within 1 month prior to actually going out on the track. It's a good idea to do that because the fluid can actually start to absorb water, and then once it does that, it doesn't work as well. Also, if you have any air in the lines, then you're going to get some compressibility in the pedal, and you're not going to have as good of braking. Remember, this fluid is literally the only thing that helps you stop this car. So when this fluid goes bad, your brakes cannot function as well. It's a very good idea to do for safety purposes and also just for peace of mind. Today, we're going to be putting in Motul 660 RBF brake fluid. So this is a high temp brake fluid. It is designed for racing. I normally use the Castrol SRF, but I read that there's actually a shortage of it right now. This is just as good in my opinion, so I'm very happy to put in either of them. I'm also going to use a vacuum pump to suck out the old brake fluid, so we're going to do that before we add any of the new brake fluid. That way we don't have to push as much through the system. I'm going to be using a Motiv pressure bleeder. So this basically applies pressure to the master cylinder. Instead of pumping the brake pedal, this is basically doing that for us. And then finally, we're going to use a collection cup that we can connect to the brake bleeder lines. That way the fluid can build up in this cup and we don't have it spilling all over the place. Also, we're going to be using gloves because brake fluid is not exactly the greatest thing to get on your hands, and you want to be very careful not to get the brake fluid on the paint, as it can actually damage your paint. Normally, the first thing you do is get your car lifted up in the air and take off the wheels. Obviously, I've already done that, and the reason is my wheels were just sent out to get refinished. They look absolutely glorious. We're waiting to get tires, so they're not back on the car, so I thought I'd take advantage of this moment since the wheels were already off the car and do the brake bleeding right now. The brake fluid is located in the front of the car and is under this little panel. Sometimes you can pop it off with your fingers, but oh wait. Yeah, there we go. Other times you might need to use a screwdriver to pop it off. And of course it sits under this cap. And there is our brake fluid. And you can see, it's kind of brown and gross. So this is definitely bad fluid. All right, so I've got towels all around it because we don't want to spill in the brake fluid anywhere. And again, we're gonna use this vacuum pump to suck out the old stuff. So this is like a dark color and we need it to be more of an amber color. This is obviously some bad fluid. Alright, we're going to top off the fluid reservoir. Next, we're going to screw on the cap of our Motiv pressure bleeder. Making sure not to cross thread it. And they're good and tight. We're going to apply about 15 to 20 psi of pressure onto the system. So we're going to start with the wheel furthest from the master cylinder. So we're starting with the passenger rear, then we'll do the driver's rear, then we'll do the passenger front, and then the driver's front. So you always want to work furthest all the way to the closest. That way the fluid gets pushed out and you're getting less and less fluid pushed through the system. There are two bleeders on each caliper on the Ferrari 458. So there's an outer and an inner. We're going to do the inner one first. And the logic I heard for that is if you bleed this one first, then by the time you bleed this one, basically there's nothing left except for the fluid in the caliper that goes through. So that way any air doesn't actually get pushed through all the pistons in the caliper. So we're going to pop this little cap off. All right, so we'll use a screwdriver and very gently just pry off this little nipple cap. There we go. And these are 11 millimeter. So I have an actual 11 millimeter special, I don't know what they call this, whatever the tool is. It grabs on all sides, so that way we're not risking the rounding off the bleeder. So we're going to put that on there, and now we've got the fill bottle connected to the bleeder, and we will now crack open this bleeder, and then the fluid we should be able to see the fluid going through. So as we open it, and there it comes. Now we just push all this fluid through and wait until we get to new fluid. So we should be able to see the color change once we get to the new fluid. Right now it's kind of a slightly darker color. We're going to want to see it get nice and clear. It's hard to see, but right there is actually an air bubble. So that is also another good reason why we're doing this, is we want to get any air out of the line. So that little air bubble could have helped cause the brakes to not feel quite as firm. All right, so we can see the line is starting to get nice and clear. The color of the fluid looks like it's pretty new. We've collected up a decent amount of it, so I'm going to switch to the outer bleeder. Before we do that, we're going to tighten up the bleeder to 17 Newton meters. There it is. And we put our cap back on. All right, so that one's done. Let's switch to the outer bleeder. We're getting the outer bleeder going. This one shouldn't need nearly as much since we already bled through on the inner one, although I did see some air coming out, so we're going to let that run for just a little bit to make sure all of the air is out of the system. All right, this one's all bled. We will tighten it to, again, 17 Newton meters. There we go. So now we got the rear done on the passenger side. We're going to pop the motive off. We're going to refill the master fluid, make sure that we never run dry. Why they buried that in there is beyond me. It makes it so it's super hard to get any grip. There it goes. Add some more Motil. Put our motive back on and repressurize. So just like the other one, we're going to pop off the cap. Use our 11 millimeter brake bleeder bottle connected. There we go. All right, you can see the fluid coming through. All right, the fluid's looking pretty clear, so we'll turn that off. All right, wipe this down. Tighten it to 17 Newton meters. And replace our cap. And now repeat. Whoa, see, air came out in that one. Definitely a good thing we're doing it. And you can actually see it looks like some chunks, so it had some debris in it. All right, this stuff's looking pretty clear. We'll shut it off, wipe it down, tighten it to 17 Newton meters. Replace the cap. And I'm gonna just clean it up a little bit. We use this brake cleaner. Just to make sure that there's no fluid left on there. I don't want it burning up my paint. So you can already see how nasty this old fluid is. It's like super dark. Yeah, good thing we're doing this, huh? All right, so now we're gonna move to the passenger front. All right, got the front too, so now we're just gonna pop off the motive and top off the brake fluid. Disconnect the motive. Okay. I found using a wrench just to break it loose is a little bit easier. There. And we'll top off the brake fluid. There we go. Replace the cap. And the cover. All right. So I only ended up using about a half a liter of fluid. You can see it is, yeah, really gross. Definitely was due for a brake fluid flush, so all that's been taken care of. Now we're good for at least a year. Well, given I track the car, I'll probably change it out at least 1 or 2 more times this year, but super easy. That took way less than an hour, especially since my wheels were already off. All you need are simple tools, and it's gonna save you a ton of money. Plus, you can use better fluid, because a lot of the places aren't gonna be using this sort of like 660 temp stuff. So this stuff's rated for really high temperatures. You don't have to worry about brake fade, especially if you're driving hard at the track. Hopefully you enjoyed this video, and if you did, please feel free to like, share, and subscribe. Those things do help out my channel and help me keep motivated to do these sorts of cool projects for you guys. I know you guys love some of this DIY stuff on the Ferrari. I got a couple more projects coming up soon, so you're gonna wanna stay tuned for that. Also, don't forget, we're looking for our next project car. So go to my website, go to the submit a project car. If you submit the project car that we choose, I'm gonna split the profit of that car with you 1/3. Also, we have some giveaways coming up, so the slip blow scrape guards going to be given away once we hit 55,000 subscribers. Go to bit.ly/NGS scrape and use the code NGS10. You're going to get 10% off your entire order. And if you want to get entered to win, go to my website, normalguysupercar.com, sign up for the email list or buy even merch or become a member of my channel. If you do those 3 things, you're automatically entered for a chance to win. We've got a ton of cool car stuff coming up. You guys are going to want to stay tuned. It's going to be sweet.